minutes, that'll be fine. But,
So let's go. Let's start.
Terry's going down to North Carolina.
We ought to have it.
we have,
Tickets, so I got a ticket if you want to go.
I'd like to welcome the other reps that decided to come this morning, so that hopefully we will not have to go through all of this all over again on next Monday, when, thank you, when we have,
Such an optimist.
yeah, well, I have to be, you know, you gotta be.
Oh, great, thank you.
And
Same stuff.
I know that, thank you for passing this out, but we all had received this on email.
Yeah, it hasn't changed. This is just a color version.
Okay. Well, I got mine in color. It came in color.
Yeah, we got a color one originally, and then we got the
Yeah.
color.
Mine too, I printed mine out.
Yeah, I printed mine out too. So maybe we could just start with what are the differences between this new document and the one that we had received, I don't know, 8 months ago?
I'm not sure that they're hugely different, just in how you viewed the options.
Okay.
I think we've added, I can touch on this briefly, I guess.
Yeah, just that way we won't have to go through this again.
Well, I'll do this quick, and then we'll do it again for Mark and the gang. But basically, everybody remembers this old spin, right? This was the old drawing that we talked about with different options of save and demo and not. That pretty much goes away. Blue's coming apart already. This is really just an orientation plan. Everybody at this point, I think, knows how it lays out, but this is your site plan, perimeter roads. The core we've always talked about is here. When we talk about those terms, the wings, obviously, left and right. Central, the blow-up of that, if you will, of the building, was, I think in the past, we've always talked when we started about, there was a focus on demoing wings, either one pair or all, and there was a focus on keeping a 15,000 square foot core, right? The newest spin, if you will, that has come about is keeping potentially a 10,000 square foot core-ish, 10 to 11. And the way we would do that is by demoing this front component. The reason we did that, committee had asked at our last meeting, I don't know, 6 or 8 weeks ago, whenever we met, to come up with a scenario under $1 million, and we had various goals. And those goals were to provide a 3,000 foot shell space for something. I don't think the word co-op was used. For some sort of future use. We all generally, I think, agreed that, at least at the moment, there's a laundry use. There's the pellet boiler. Existing gas boilers are on this side. There is a maintenance storage potential need. There is a record storage need, that sort of thing. But the general concept was that we may not need 15,000. Hey guys, what if we shrunk that? That's kind of how we got to here. Welcome, Mark.
Good morning.
So if you want, I can kind of, we might as well start from scratch, and because that was, we did a really quick highlight. Did you have anything you wanted to throw at everybody before we start, or you want me to just jump right in?
Nope, you can just jump right in.
Okay. All I was doing, Mark, was trying to give everybody a quick overview of where we were and where we've come from. I started kind of with the back of this being, we've all seen this about 8 times, and we pretty much recognize it as the first spin of options, I guess, on what to do with the building. So from that, and from the conversations of the last committee meeting, what we did was simply create a new cartoon and a new series of options. And your question was, what is different about this? I think there's a few things that are different in that this tried to address what the committee wanted as options to review and discuss. Item 1, which was really do nothing, leave the building intact as a scenario, at least to know what it is. And item 1 was, from a construction standpoint, from my view, there is nothing to do. From a county perspective, there is obviously considerations. Long-term maintenance, long-term heating, long-term electric. So you have utility costs. Should you elect to leave the whole building and do nothing today? You would save short-term the demo costs, may have to face that in the future should you demo it down the road. So that was really the only point of item 1. Just a discussion with the committee of, did that make any sense, or is that gone? I know there's been a lot of healthy discussion about it.
Dealing with leaving it standing, not doing anything, is the pellet boiler designed to also heat the entire old building?
I To be honest, we'd have to verify that with our engineer, but if I remember right, the plan in the beginning, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the plan was always to take off at least 2 wings.
Yeah.
So I believe the design is to heat this and the second wings. What would that be, the easterly wings. I have to verify that with Doug McGill, but I believe that was the case when he originally did the design. We also asked the question on the pellet boiler, does it make sense to hook this up? I think it was Mark's question, or somebody from the committee asked, does it make sense to continue and hook this up, whatever we retain from the pellet boiler, for a building? I spoke with Doug about that, and he said absolutely. I mean, it's system's there, you own the system, you should use it to heat whatever you retain. So his answer was an adamant yes.
So the pellet boiler will heat the nursing home plus at least 2 wings and the core.
I think it would, generally it would heat whatever we retain. The only question I'm not sure of is whether he had it designed to handle this. Certainly in swing seasons it would. The only question is, would it handle that whole thing in a bitter cold, winter, dead of winter, January, February.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, Representative Babson.
There was also some discussion early on about heating the jail. Is that going to be with, if we put a larger unit in it, and some future date we could heat the jail?
No, I think the engineer said it would have to be a separate system down at the jail.
I think the determination was with a pellet system, it was more efficient to go with localized systems at those buildings.
Okay.
I think if we go back through the minutes, I think that's what we decided going back some time. Mainly the cost of infrastructure of piping that far away. These two are relatively close, but that piping is not inexpensive, as you know. So. Yes.
Yes.
Or whoever's running this.
Marcus.
So this may be stating the obvious. I have 2 quick questions. So the existing boiler, that can be removed. Is that what the bottom line of what we're saying here? Is that we will not need the pellet boiler will not be supplemental heat for the annex area, so we could remove the existing boiler area?
That's possible, but I think I would leave it. Yeah, we'd want to discuss that with Doug. I think what happens. Let me kind of, I guess, frame this a little bit for you. Whatever you decide here today, or whatever you decide to recommend to the delegation going forward, this still obviously needs to be designed. These are, I guess in my mind, these are options for the committee to discuss to come up with a recommendation. The next step would be, with everybody's blessing, just like we do with the nursing home, we would go out and solicit architectural engineering teams and complete the design, whatever that design is.
And then the follow-up question is...
And we would make those decisions.
Okay, so we're not really at that decision.
I don't think you have to
part of the tree yet, but it's a possibility that needs to be verified.
Right.
And then this is more if you can recollect how far was the run from the pellet boiler to the new nursing home as far as the piping? How far was that run?
Many hundred, I don't.
You have to recall.
How many?
It's a few hundred, but it came from. Yeah, I'm just trying to. Comes out and around this wing though, right? So it's got to be. It's more than that, but I don't recall. So I have to look it up.
Okay.
I don't recall.
All right. It's curiosity, just for cataloging. Go ahead.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. So that's the idea, I guess. Like I said, in our minds, in my mind at least, the goal is to come up with a framed plan and a direction, whatever that direction is, and for you folks to decide. 2 is a little bit of a repeat from before, but to frame these different options, you would have item 2 is referring to deleting the easterly wings, and when we say wall replacement, if we deleted just that wing, we're clipping this side off, and we're now creating a new foundation, new exterior wall system, windows, etc., for whatever this use was, should it remain. Okay, so in item 2, this includes the demo, the abatement, the site prep, the repair of this wall and replacement, cut off of utilities, all that sort of thing to make it functioning. 3, if we did 3, would simply be going to the other side, doing the same thing, doing exactly the same thing. Take this down, abatement, demo, site prep, clean this up, loam seed, that kind of stuff. Replace this wall. 4 is a new spin since our last meeting. And what that really came out of was, if you recall originally, if the co-op was the use, the co-op originally I think needed 2,500 to 3,000 feet. We were renovating 4,500 feet here simply because it's what we owned, right? Because what we had as a building. Not necessarily as efficient as it might be, but trying to work with existing building and so forth that's here. But it needs all new systems, should have new wiring, heating needs to be addressed, that sort of thing. So under item 4, that's this piece, we had the thought, which really never hit us originally, quite honestly, pull this back to what is a steel bearing wall here, or it's a masonry wall with bearing, recreate this infill as an outside wall, and what you're left with in that scenario is about a 10,500 square foot, I guess we'll call it utility building, was the original thinking. But what it allows you, if you did go in that direction, this is from the EGA report that some of you may see, 8.5 by 11, we just simply blew it up. This is that front admin and entry area, the wings are off to the sides. What you're left with is this box. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when you look at this space, this is actually pretty substantial. This is the old commercial dining, commercial kitchen and storage facility, main corridor, dining facility and activities. Dining and activities alone is right around 3,000 square feet. And we kind of left thinking, okay, the goal was to give us a 3,000 foot shell space. It has exterior windows. It's a flat floor with nothing but vinyl tile and acoustical ceiling, relatively easy to renovate. Should we pursue that direction, my thinking would be the co-op would slide right into here and actually have a rear entrance as opposed to the front, what we consider the front door today. That's a possibility. Commercial kitchen doesn't really have a plan yet as to what it is, but it more than exceeds the need for maintenance. So we'll get to that in a minute, but the thinking there was, this is extremely clean in my mind to create office space. This side is a little messier because it has drains, it has quarry tile, it has freezers, coolers, perfectly fine for a maintenance area, or for storage, or for whatever you feel your need again might be. All it really requires is, it has some advantages for maintenance as well, because it's already wired heavily. It's wired for mixers and cooking equipment and things, so Bob could very easily have it converted to maintenance space. So that was, I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's kind of the thinking. If you were to take those options 2, 3, and 4, jumping back to 4, you actually save $50,000. And the reason you save the $50,000 is because now you're only creating an infill or skin on one wall as opposed to 2, if that makes sense. So you're actually reducing the amount of work even though you're adding the demo for the front. So you start to roll that number back a little bit. 5 is an item we talked about before. That was, again, just to have it here for reference. Should we save the front? Should we make that in a co-op office and make it kind of like new office rental space? That was that original $450, which is obviously a pretty substantial chunk of money. And stop me if anybody has questions along the way here.
Let's move on.
Item 6.
Question, Randy?
Oh, sorry.
In your figures on number 5,
Yes.
have you prorated the cost of the roofing? Or is the whole roofing cost in that 420?
The whole roofing cost is in those roofing items we're about to get to. Yeah.
That's not my question. My question is, have you prorated that in the cost of renovating the front part of the building?
I'm not sure I understand.
No,
I'm
the answer is
thinking
no.
They're separate. They're separate prices. So,
It's not in there.
right, you would roof it first, which I'll get to in the roofing thing completely. And then the renovation, the reason the renovation is so expensive with co-op is, was it kind of a light new system. It was all new systems. We completely gutted it, wired it brand new, heated and aired it brand new, ducted air systems and that sort of thing, which again, as a committee, may not be necessary. We kind of took the high road and said, if you're going to put them in there for 20 plus years, look at it as a new office rental. That's why that number's up there. It doesn't mean that can't go down. So that
Representative McCarthy and then Representative Plush.
Thank you. You and I talked one day during a tour, and I asked about the cost of the demolition of the wings. And I was told by you that the demolition is nothing. The real cost is rebuilding the walls, putting in footings, and all of that sort of thing. Well, if we go with this option, there's only one wall that we're going to have to replace. That's that front wall there.
Yep.
So why is the cost of the demolition so high? Originally it was what, $56,000 for a wing? $56,000 for each half a wing or each building of a wing. Now it's at the
number hasn't changed, and the breakdowns are in here if you want to look at that, and we can talk about it. You still have to abate, for example, all the asbestos even though you're going to demo it. You got to get a clean building before you can get rid of the materials. Demolition is pretty much for the most part, by the square foot. It's how much building are we taking away? We then have to restore the site. The only thing that I see here that we've considered, I think that we need to do is the likelihood of a new roof line connecting to our drainage. Once we don't know how this is piped exactly, there's a good chance we'll disturb or disrupt that when we take this down. So we've assumed we're going to run a new line out to our drainage and intercept that. In that number, again, not a huge, it's a few $1,000s, not a huge item. But I think if you carry those through or look at these estimates, you'll see that it's, numbers haven't changed. They're the same as they were. It's just quantity, just pure quantity. We still need to cut off and isolate systems and things like we would with the wings, but nothing really crazy.
Further?
Follow up, please. This is for the commissioner. Didn't we put $100,000 aside that was supposed to be for demolition? Wasn't that already in the budget somewhere?
It's in the new nursing home budget for $100,000, but the figure that I got first from Always Reckon, and it would have to be put out for bid again, was $111,500. But now we're talking about tearing down the front portion. Any idea what that's going to cost?
Yeah, we added
Is that
in.
50,000?
I think we've been using, from discussion, we've been using about $6 a square foot is the demolition cost. Of
So
that.
what would that front portion be?
It's about, what did we say, what's your, 4,500?
Yeah, about 4,500 feet,
At
right.
about $6 for the demolition, get asbestos abatement, and then just restoring the site. I mean, we've got to do something
Get a
with,
bottom line on that?
this is all planned, I don't off the top of my head, Dave. But it's combined in these numbers, we can certainly pull it out.
Representative McCarthy?
Mr. Sorensen, Commissioner Sorensen,
Yep.
please, the $100,000 that was set aside for demolition purposes, does that show up in here at all? Can we take $100,000 off this total or what?
No.
All I know is there's $100,000 in our new nursing home budget to put towards demolition.
Where that money comes in, I can help with this, is that contractually in the original nursing home project, there was a $100,000 line item in the owner's soft cost, the county soft cost, for some demolition, whatever it was to be. And honestly, during design, I don't think we ever decided. I think the assumption was we were going to take off half. We were going to take off, but it was never really confirmed.
Okay, my question then, it boils down to then...
No, I can answer your question. Let me finish. That $100,000 is in your savings that you're hearing about from the commissioners. When they say they're saving $3+ million, whatever that number is, that is included in those savings. So that
Yes.
money is there, but it's over in that savings pile, if you will.
Okay, that's included in that...
This is assuming you've got all your money sitting over in an account somewhere. We're done. We're looking at a brand new project, and this is standalone. Call this ad, right? This is a standalone project you're viewing and deciding how to do this. There's no more swapping and trading. It's cut clean.
Okay. Representative Fleck?
Thank you. Yes, I have a question about item 5, just to make sure we're looking at apples and apples.
Yep.
If you look at the renovation work that's anticipated in item 5, to bring it up to really great standards,
Correct.
are those renovations replicated in the back of the building?
They are. So and we can chat about that a little as we get into 300,000. It's pretty simple math. It's $100 a foot is really what it is, which is a pretty fair number for. This is a fairly straightforward renovation. This would be, and I think again working together with a design team and with a co-op might actually save a little money there. That's assuming, for example, here you're trying to work an existing building and deal with all this stuff and make it work for their need. To me, this is a pretty cool space. It's an open room, right? You strip out the ceiling, you frame petitions. It's a flat floor already. You put in a new isolated system to cool it, fresh air, that sort of thing. Pretty straightforward. This gets a little more involved, and it's a lot bigger.
So you're saying that all of the amenities that we would be looking at in the front of the building, we would actually find in the cost that you've indicated in the back of the building?
You'd have a nice little office space for them right here for that sort of money, with their meeting rooms and plan rooms and their offices. If they viewed, say, an open concept area and so forth, you might even save a few dollars. But isolated offices and that sort of thing.
So where would that cost show up then?
That would be item 6, which is renovating the co-op space should it be located back here, and I'm somewhere in the back. And I was simply saying the easy place to put it is this 3,000 right here, dining and activity, if you chose that route.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Merrill, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. After you complete the demolition in the front, assuming that was demolished, just right here, are the costs included as far, I mean, you gotta either make a parking lot or grass it in or something. Are those costs included in that, or is that all separate?
You've already got, actually here, there is a small amount of money there, and it's mainly to rearrange gardens and kind of reconfigure this front. My thinking is, and again, I'm putting words in people's mouths, but there's a nice garden and a fair amount of landscape here. Why not rob and move some of that to the new nursing home? Take some of the balance of it and move it up to this building just so it looks like it belongs. But you already own a parking space, even though it's a little further away. You own a fairly decent parking lot, and we just have to make that decision. Do we just extend the walk? I mean, in my mind, we just extend the simple walk up to the back door. In this case, if we were to go front door for the co-op, again, if we did that, and then just relocate some existing plantings that you own. You know, have a tree digger or a landscaper for a couple of days and you move stuff.
Representative McCarthy, something new?
Yes, let me rephrase my question, because I still haven't got an answer. Since $100,000 has already been approved in the previous budget, the new nursing home, et cetera, when these figures come up for a vote by the delegation on how much we're going to approve, can we subtract the $100,000 from the figure, because that $100,000 has already been approved?
If you were to approve a contract for us, you would have to approve whatever monies you picked off this list. Where the money comes from, I'm going to leave to you guys. I see what you're saying. The money was approved prior, but I'm not sure it was approved for this sort of a package, right? I think we're kind of viewing it as, this is just my words, I think we're right, but I think we're viewing it as a whole new entity. I'll let you guys decide that one.
Okay. Can we move on?
We sure can. Okay, renovate co-op space, we kind of touched on that already. My thinking would be the right side, should we? And the reason we're doing that, again, is we've been viewing this as $1 million goal. Don't spend over $1 million. That's why we're discussing this space, and that's kind of why we ended up there. We've just been looking for different answers. How do we reframe that budget? The roofs were pretty much the same as before, just adjusted for footage. Mr. Babson caught me on a little word problem there, but item 7. Item 7 was an old number from a prior quote, which was the re-roofing of this entire core. Would be the whole 15, when we say entire core, going back to this again, right? That's this whole center, including the front admin area. Item 8 is just a modification of that. Should you pick the back 2/3, that now takes care of just this. And that is adding insulation, a new membrane roof, putting back drainage and that sort of thing, so we have an internally drained roof. It's not a pitched roof, and it's getting rid of all that old metal system that's on top of that.
Is that a 20-year solution?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. The next ones are kind of for discussion. We've thrown these in. Item 9 is laundry improvements. There's been a want, if we kept the laundry, to improve its efficiency. In this scenario, if you recall, in our last go-around, we were saving potentially a portion of the old, there was some storage rooms and things in the front admin, and laundry had requested some improved dirty to clean distribution and a folding area. So one idea was to go around through Barber Beauty and save some of this portion of the building and expand that. If we were to reduce this, we lose this piece of the building, but a new scenario arrives in the sense that I've gone over and looked at this room based on the load that they have there. It's basically personal laundry. If you're not expanding it into commercial, linens and that sort of thing, you could go in here, improve their equipment, revamp the room. We've kind of thrown an allowance, which I think is conservative, of $100,000, okay? That includes demoing this room to the point of taking the floor out, repiping it, making this a much more efficient lineup of equipment, repiping, redo the ventilation and so forth. They could potentially capture the old Barber Beauty as either office or whatever. I've heard some discussion about, apparently they've looked at this and maybe even bringing dirty in through Barber Beauty and have more of a flow that goes around this room and out the back door is clean. So they might be able to improve their situation without that additional space by capturing this a little differently and bringing your dirty stuff in and just revamping how that whole room's laid out. Create a small folding area and do what they're doing, just do it more effectively. So that's that scenario. Again, to be designed, but this includes demoing that out and revamping that whole room.
Representative Merrill?
Yeah, if you, on that top part there, if we put the co-op in there,
On that side.
yeah, where in here do the costs for putting in the co-op show up?
You're catching on. We're going to do that in 1 second. My thinking, again, was, and I may be out of school, kick me if I need to be.
We'll save that for later.
I was given a mission of come in with something under $1 million. So I had to make a choice. I came in with a scenario that's under $1 million that includes a contingency, design and soft cost, which is item 12, of $125,000. I came in including $75,000 to renovate a space, and I'm thinking this space for maintenance or some portion thereof, and including laundry improvement. If you were to take all of those items, and that's why I want to make sure everybody had a color copy, the items highlighted in yellow add up to the 980. That includes a contingency, includes a design team, includes all the various items in yellow. It does not include the co-op. My thinking with the co-op was, should these be important to you, laundry and maintenance and so forth, doing them as part of this package, the co-op already pays rent. One thought is, would they self-fund under that rent versus that money? Now that exceeds your $1 million, but we came in with, again, a kind of a shell space for some use. If you wanted to fund the co-op, again, me thinking their rent should pay for that, whatever we decide to do for that.
Right, but we paid the rent.
True.
I mean.
But you're already paying it.
You're already paying it.
So I guess that's my point, is as you know, we've struggled with trying to get all the wants to fit in $1 million. And I guess that's the way we just chose to.
That's right. Representative Merrill,
I don't disagree with what he's saying, but my concern is that if we fund this thing without at the same time funding money for the co-op, then the co-op may not go in, and if that's the case, I won't vote for this.
Thank you.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Okay. I mean, the other thing, I guess my only point to that, just to add to that, would be if that was going to be their office space or you thought it was, it should probably be designed, but maybe when it goes out to bid, it's not necessarily, obviously it's not, the trigger isn't pulled to build it unless they're coming. I mean, that would be silly. I would agree with you on that. But the design piece would be inexpensive. You'd be ready for them if that's the direction they're heading. And then just don't build that particular component if they don't go, right? If they aren't able to make that decision. Where were we? Maintenance. Again, maintenance. Bob's been very good about doing some things himself. We put some money in here because this needs to really be cleaned up for him. If that became maintenance, and the other thought would be that may become some record storage area, that sort of thing. So there is a budget to do some basic work in that space. Systems would stay the same. It's relocation of cabinets, building workbenches, getting them a place to call home, I guess, if you will, for repairs and storage. The item 11 is... Excuse me. I'm sorry?
The maintenance space that we have right now, or you have right now allocated, roughly is how many square feet, and how many more square feet is that than what Bob's had for his use inside that building?
I think this exceeds his wants. So I think you have room to do other options here. 2,000-ish, Jim, from memory?
Probably about 2,000.
For Bob, he's been requesting? I don't have his list right in front of me. It was right now, he's currently in the activity, what was labeled activity, and he was going to spill over into here in his wish list. His maximum wish list is not, I think it's 2,500 feet in that range.
So he was using somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 square feet presently? Actually less than that.
Well, it's hard to say because he spilled over into here.
Yeah.
Right now you've got a lot of things stored, and there would have to be decisions made. It doesn't all have to be.
But when the building was operating and he had a maintenance shop in there.
Oh, he was much smaller. He was probably in a pellet boiler size.
So
and he was a little jammed, but a couple thousand would be more than adequate.
Okay, so he was operating in 500 plus or minus, plus other outside space.
Ancillary storages, other places. He was putting
thank
things.
you.
Yep. Again, not to say it's the right answer, but in my mind, I think there's probably 1,000 or so loose feet back there to use for something.
Thank you.
You also have, on that point, you also have this space here as well. The only fixed spaces in this scenario are the brown ones with the blue X. Electrical would stay, existing boiler would likely stay, pellet boiler obviously would stay. You would gain that potentially for laundry if you did that. You would also gain this space, which could, whatever it could be, that could be a nice little records area. And it could be made into a fireproof room and made a storage area. Right now we have records and trailers and things like that, I guess.
Representative?
Yes.
I'll come to you.
Are you going to put a door in what is currently the front of the building? Was that?
Doesn't have to be. It would be. I think it depends on this end use. I mean, honestly, this could be blocked off, and other methods of egress could be created. I think in that final design, there's a little there's a lot of play for the committee in that. We could make those decisions depending on the uses we choose for these spaces. It doesn't have to be. This can just be a blank wall with some landscaping in front of it. This can be the front. I mean, there's nothing to say you can't have it all up there. You just have to have emergency exit.
Commissioner Solomon?